Yo, what's going on? It's Peter A. Berry, and I'm here with my good friend Ian Stonebrook. And
How's it going?
what's going on, man? And this is the Rated or Love It podcast. You know, the podcast for people that think that any and everything in pop culture should hit. So today, our subject is let's just say Ian the Iceman cometh. Drake finally released his Iceman album last week, and not only did he release Iceman, he released two other albums simultaneously. He released Iceman, of course, and that project has been promoting for about 2 years. He released the Iceman is sort of the hard rap album. If you love, if you're it's just too late. That's the album for you, I think. And then he released Maid of Honor, which is sort of like a more colorful sequel to his 2022 dance album. Honestly, never mind. And he's got Habibti, which is hopefully I'm saying that right. Habibti. He's got that's sort of the slower, more sensuous R&B Drake, kind of a throwback Drake. It almost feels like a concentrated dose of like a bygone era of Drake. And so now we're gonna break them down, rate them. So I think we'll start first with Iceman. Ian, I I feel like I always go first. Do you have any interest in leading us off?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. I mean, I'll definitely defer to you a lot. Yeah, I loved Iceman. You know what I mean? I think it was really good. The thing that I liked most about it, aside from like the rapidy raps and like the tight writing and stuff like that, was it was the weirdest Drake had got from a hooks and production standpoint in a long time. Like really since if you're reading this, it's too late. Like it wasn't didn't feel trend chasing. It didn't feel like too commercially. Felt like even if maybe like 40 isn't like peppered all over the track list and stuff like that, or like the credits, it definitely felt in that zone, which I appreciated. And I think more anything, it was nice to see an album feel like an event. You know, at first I was like, oh, maybe I'll catch a stream, maybe I won't. Man, that stream made it feel like something. You know what I mean? And I think some of that is we often maybe like credit and discredit for Drake, like having the acting resume. Dude's compelling on camera, even in moments that are cringe, still you got to look. You know what I mean? There's something going on. And I think that having a shared experience for an album that probably hasn't really been felt kind of like on that at home, but with everybody else level since, probably down to listening parties was ill. So, I mean, that's just kind of my top line take. I love it or the very least like it. But I think we're a bit in the minority in that. So I'd love to hear if you're alone with that, Peter.
No, I'm gonna be flat out. Drake, unfortunately, I was 16 in 2008, 17 was So Far Gone came out. So Drake is, Drake, I like many people born in 1992, that were in high school when Drake first came out, really. I developed a parasocial relationship to Drake over time. And it was like just like many people. And I remember he had this lyric on his freestyle over Kanye's Say You Will, called Say What's Real. He said, "Don't ever forget the moment you began to doubt, transition in from fitting in to standing out." And if you were like a not so cool kid like me at the time, you heard that, you were like, wow, that's exactly it. I don't want to fit in, I don't want to stand out. And he just had all of these, he just always had a knack for self mythology and sort of self sociology, understanding like where he is in relation to the world. And he's always been able to distill that in such incisive couplets. And so that's always been my favorite part about Drake. I think his ability to describe his narrative and contextualize himself in the global or immediate narrative, whatever ecosystem he's in, so well. As a writer, I admire it. As a journalist, as a former rapper, I admire it. I think he really this album, for me, he did that so compellingly. I just think the way he describes the opening on Make Them Cry, he said, it's just so efficient as far as the communication of it. I'm an only child. No one could have made another. I have to father my mother and treat my son's grandfather like an older brother. Like, that's only 2 bars, and he's just laid out an entire, like, lineage of familial dysfunctionality. Like, I just think that's amazingly efficient, and I think that he has sequences sort of like that throughout the album. Like, Ian, he's rapping his ass off. Like, this is as good a rapping as I've ever heard Drake do. People will point out the clunky one-liners, but even those, they flow smoothly within the song structure, so that to me, it's not even a speed bump. And I think, my biggest takeaway is, as far as the album itself, I think it's amazing. And I think if people we'll get to the next part later, but I mean, I think it's amazing that he has a song like Make Them Cry and Make Them Pay and Make Them Remember, where he's just where his assonance is crazy, dexterity is just elite, his rhyming is so tidy. It's so tidy. He says the most he can possible with the least possible movement. It's like watching prime Michael Jordan just do a really hard jab step and pull up for a 17-footer. It's like watching Kyrie Irving just a quick first step left off the left foot, easy, just square your body up, make a layup. It makes me think of all these efficient movers in basketball. That's what it's like listening to Drake. But he's got that element. But then he's just got these amazing slam dunks, these stadium status anthems like Janice Shut the Fuck Up. That's about to go number one. And I think the sample is brilliant. It's somebody he sampled like Lee. I forget her Likey
Particularly,
Lee.
yeah.
Licky Lee, yeah. I listened to the original song and I was like, wow, what an interpolation. And like that song, it just soars. Like it kind of passed me at first, but I think it's low key, maybe the type of apex Drake anthem I've been waiting for him to return with. And then What Did I Miss feels so much better in context than it was by itself. Like these are elite anthems. He's got these elite anthems. He's making anthems better than the best anthem makers, right? And he's rapping as well as the best rappers. To have Make Them Cry and Janice Shut the Fuck Up on the same album within 3 songs of each other. It's pretty astonishing. I don't think he's getting the credit that he deserves for it. So I love it. I think this Ian, I love this album. It's his best album since Views or More Life, one of those, or Scorpion, one of those. I think it's got an argument for a top 5 Drake album.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that there's been a lot of aside from kind of like I don't know, people feeling away about like the Megan lines or whatever, like her loss has aged really well. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people are like, oh shit, like that was really fun, like flowed well, it was efficient and stuff like that. Yeah, I thought it was great. And it still feels to me like, and again, if we're all operating on 24-hour turn album reviews to get paid 30 days later, you know what I mean? Like maybe not all these like musings in the moment will stick, you know what I mean? Like myself included. But I think that it felt like a lot of people decided how they wanted to feel about it before they heard it. And I don't want to say that just as like contrary to my opinion, because everybody's entitled to their own. But I think the biggest complaint has been like that he spends so much of the album in vengeful mode. Fuck, man, if I went through the stuff he went through, whether it's his fault, justified or not, you know what I mean? I don't know the inside baseball or the office politics of that, but you'd have a lot of shit to get off, you know what I mean? And I think he did. And like you said, like if maybe some could say he was redundant in terms of maybe like going back to beefs or maybe having some songs that were like, different versions of the same subject or stuff like that. I think he's really rapping. And I think too, to contextualize, like, I think there's two ways to contextualize the album aside from, well, one, I guess a whole other thought is like, do we live in a world where people actually want comebacks? Like, I feel like in the 90s or the 2000s, like, we rooted for comebacks, an era of like cancel culture dunking on. I think we're kind of against it, which I mean, yeah, I understand like the scales tipping because there's a lot of like, oh, well, they did that really shitty thing, but then they made a song I like. So like, who cares? Like there's only God can judge. I don't know where to like, place stuff, but there's a context to judge it as a comeback album. And I think as far as rap's comeback albums, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's as good as Stillmatic or B, you know what I mean? Or if it's as good as American Gangster, but I think it's in the conversation. I think it's quite thorough. And then I think on the other hand, once we get to the other albums, would be like genre for genre, artist for artist, albums of the year. Would you rather listen to this one or would you rather listen to Drake one? Then Drake's going to win a lot of them. But I think the bigger thing is like being 39 and being a rapper. Like as much as we live in this LeBron James, Tom Brady era of rap, like Drake is making the event album at 39. And as much as it has to do with narrative and power and leverage and stuff like that, he's actually rapping in contemporary fashion at a very high level. And, like I did a little research and I was like other albums that would kind of like live in that live in that realm, you know what I mean, in terms of like the age. And it's like, yo, I think it's better than Life is Good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's as good as the Renaissance, but it's in that conversation. Is it better than American Gangster? Who's to say? But like, yo, it's better than Recovery. It's better than the Big Doe
Yeah,
Rehab. Better than the Blueprint 3.
yeah.
It's better than the Dreamer, the Believer. Like when you're talking about rap being made by somebody in their late 30s, it's pretty high bar, I think.
And I love The Dream of the Believer. What was that? That Blue with Blue Sky? I love that song
Yeah,
so
that was
I love
the single, yeah.
Common, one of my favorite rappers of all time. Yeah, you brought up some great points, and there's so much. I'm trying not to keep you too long, but there's so much to unpack. What I'm gonna say is, yeah, I think that, and I talk about this a lot on Twitter or X, formerly known as Twitter. I think that people, to your point about the reviews, I think that people have a philosophical stake in Drake. And I think that unbeknownst to themselves, it creates this false notion of objectivity in their minds. But it's like, but I think they're coming from a place where they're speaking truth to power when it comes to Drake. And I think that's where you get these moralizing takes. All of a sudden, like, it's okay to, my favorite rapper, Draco the Ruler, rest in peace. He'll say something like, I'll make niggas give real good captions and double back at the candlelight and get it cracking. As in, like, I'm gonna, I'll kill your friends and make it so that people write nice little Instagram captions about them, and then we're gonna show up at the candlelight visual and shoot them again, shoot your other friends, right? I totally disagree with the idea of murdering people and having your friends write good Instagram captions to memorialize you. I totally disagree with shooting up a candlelight vigil. But you know what? That's great rapping, great image. Great way to convey that idea, Draco. But I'm not gonna just because I disagree with him doesn't mean I'm gonna dock him in his lyrics because of it. No, I disagree with it, but those are fire lyrics. That was a great song. It's called Hang with the Ops, by the way. So similarly, like the Pitchfork Drake review and a lot of these reviews, they presuppose that petty Drake is bad Drake, and that like that Drake being vengeful and rapping about things that bother him is inherently a bad thing. And I think, to me, that's my favorite Drake. I love vindictive Drake. I love Dreams Money Can Buy Drake. I love Timestamp Drake. If you love Timestamp Drake and Running Through the Six of My Wolves Drake, and it's funny they need me more than they hate me. That's why so they'll never take shots. I got everybody on safety. If you like it when Drake said that on 5 a.m. in Toronto or at 4 p.m., whatever it was in Toronto, Timestamp Songs Drake, you'll love it. But these people, they're just saying like, yeah, but and I just disagree with that. And I feel like they Pitchfork, the guys, he spent so much time, great writer, Jason Green. He spent so much time moralizing and like evaluating Drake's character rather than getting into the specifics of the phonetics of the rhyme structure, the concision of what, like, yeah, you don't like what he said, but how well did he communicate that idea? What about, what about what about how he talked about the betrayal he felt from his friends here, and he used this example to do it? What about when he brought up the idea that metaphorically he only sees himself, the only time he can see himself is in his therapist's glasses, but at the same time, it's hard for him to take the moment serious because she's very attractive. And it's gonna take a lot of people to bury the hatchet, but it's gonna take more than Paul bearers to carry that casket. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what about the precision of those rhymes? What about the metaphorical imagery and the self-awareness to poke fun at himself for being unable to take his therapy session seriously because she's a baddie? That's like those are very specific, efficient, economical, writerly things that he's doing. And it just didn't feel like those were being focused on enough because he does it quite a lot. But it seems like it was sort of brushed off just because he didn't like what he was saying. And like, I don't know. I just felt it. And I think that you're seeing this tendency. I think you're seeing, and it's more the philosophical state. He goes even beyond the album reviews. Now people Never mind that the White House used SZA's music and Sabrina Carpenter's music for their propaganda. Like, now they used, the Iceman stuff. They're using his song. People are gonna say, like, "Oh, well, Drake should have changed his album title." But Drake's been promoting Iceman since 2024. That's Ice became a major thing. I mean, Ice was always been a thing, but that's well before Ice became the national kind of catastrophe Nazi adjacent thing, at least visibly publicly in the discourse, that it is now. You know what I mean? But people want him to be responsible for that. And it's like, never mind the millions of dollars he'd invested in it and in the campaign before that ICE thing came up. Never mind that he'd committed to that aesthetic. Never mind the government. He's literally Drake. Like, he's the biggest artist in the world. The government's gonna find a way to use Drake's music. They found a way to use SZA and use Sabrina Carpenter. You think they're not gonna figure out a way to use Drake? Iceman or no Iceman. He could have called it Fireman, and they were gonna figure out a way to, like, yeah, well, yeah, every fireman needs ice, or they would have figured some shit out. But I think that, I think people are sort of ignoring these ideas, the logistics of changing the name, the fact that he created the name 2 years ago, and the fact that we just live with the evil, diabolical man in the office in the White House. And I think they're conveniently ignoring those things because they have a philosophical stake in being against Drake. And it's sort of this was at the beginning of his career too, but it surfaced more after Kendrick kind of catalyzed the idea of Drake Black, not being a part of the culture, being an appropriator. And I think it's sort of that kind of gave people renewed battery in their back to kind of put Drake in a different category. You know, use him as an avatar for everything they don't like. So not only is Drake immature and this album is bad and his lyrics are bad because he's allegedly immature, despite all the technical merits, he's also MAGA. He's also flooding. It's just, it's this logically, it's this unconscious, unwitting tendency to group Drake with a bunch of things that they don't like because they don't like Drake, and it's the prism through which they look at the album. It's the prism through which they even look at even his most apolitical actions. And it's sort of, I'm not gonna lie, it's annoying to me because I think aside from the technical craft, as you mentioned, and I'm gonna close out, my bad, Ian,
No, you're good.
aside from the technical accomplishments of the album, aside from them suddenly, with rappers rapping about all the things they rap about, suddenly wanting to police what he talks about, right? I think Drake, to your point, he brought a lot of excitement. Like now that this album is, I haven't seen people this excited and this polarized in a long time. Genuinely, like a big event. Like even the Kanye thing is kind of jaded because his music kind of sucks
Yeah.
you know post Pablo, it's, but, people are talking about it, people are arguing about Drake. I'm writing assignments on Drake, you know what I mean? It's getting us writers paid. If you're a writer, you can write your
Yeah.
designated
Stimulating the economy.
I hate Drake piece, get your $300 for that. It's a lot of, people are talking about it online, there are memes. I think Molly Santana, who I've interviewed twice, lovely girl, the rapper on that Future song, um, she just had a huge level up. Her streams just went up a shit ton. I remember I said Northwest sounded like her.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's right, yeah.
but which like a couple weeks ago, a week ago. But you know what I mean? It's very like it's just good for the culture. It's like good for the economy, actually. Like I'm sure everybody's pockets. I feel like Drake, I think this provided, my bigger take, aside from the hate, aside from Drake being needlessly polarizing, and aside from him being a great rapper, still maybe true to the peak of his powers than we thought. I think big takeaway is I think maybe the industry needs Drake, just like what people were saying. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, like, with respect to the other artists who dropped this year, and granted, like, this is some of probably my first, like, super on the nose, like, music writing work, you know what I mean? Like, this year where a lot of it's always kinda been, like, style or, sport, culture, footwear adjacent is, yeah, man, there's a lot of work came for writers for this album, you know what I mean? Not to say that it's like you should think it's great or think it sucks because of it, but like I will tell you, at least in my opinion, that's unique. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that any other rapper, and there have been some air quotes event albums, you know what I mean, from, big three caliber guys, Mount Rushmore cats or whatever, has created this. One of the things you said that I think was really interesting is I think there's like a couple notions. There's petty Drake, you know what I mean? Which people feel the way about. And then I think there's also like tough guy Drake. And to kind of like decouple that a little bit, I can understand seeing Drake, you know, kikiing with, you know, the Bobby girl or whatever in an interview, and then seeing Drake, you know, with guns and, rolling 40 deep or whatever and thinking, I don't like that. That doesn't seem like the same guy, which I think is a fair take.
Mhm,
But I also think too that it's like anybody that watched Drake early in his career, I mean, essentially everybody called him a pussy. You know what I mean? Everybody said he was soft, if not because he was vulnerable in the music, because of his background, because of being biracial, being Jewish, being a child actor, being from Canada and stuff like that. And he was the whole "mean you'll never hear a reply to it," like, everybody made him that, you know what I mean? I think so.
mhm.
I have a little trouble when even though I think, like, Megan Garvey, like, years ago had a good take about, like, him kinda being, like, the guy who has, like, a rebrand after high school and is suddenly, ladies' man, or a new guy or whatever. I think it was Megan Garvey. Her and Lauren Nostra, they're both terrific.
It might have been Claire Lobenfield.
Could have been 2. My bad on that if I miscalled it, but I can understand, you know, brand new guy energy, in certain aspects not feeling good, but also like you're supposed to be the same guy forever. You know what I mean? I think in terms of Petty Drake, what's interesting to me is like how much do you see it as chicken or the egg? Is it, man, you brought these guys on tour and they got on and now they're trying to take your spot and you're trying to keep a thumb on them? Like who's wrong on that? Hey, Kanye directed your music video, the one that kind of got you in trouble. Now you're out on a date with Amber Rose. Like, you kind of a dick, like, "What's going on, man?" And it's interesting because I do think there is a philosophical thing on Drake's character. There's a lot of people, I think, question that, which to be fair, is fair to question if, like, literally other than KD, like, all when shouts to KD, like, everybody else kinda dipped on him. But I do think that for both of us, being petty or messy in real life is one thing. It's not really our business or our life. Being petty or messy on social media is kind of annoying, but if you're being petty in a witty way writing, especially when we all know it's really fucking tough to be clever, concise when you're
Mhm.
mad or you're being shit on, you did a really good job. So I,
Yeah.
I think that's something, and I think something too, just that the album was consumed in a way that it felt like more of an event, I'd say, first listen during the stream, then maybe straight off the iPhone. It's definitely grown on me in the car, but like he is operating in an era where like, man, ain't nobody buying an album. So a lot of times the songs that end up being your favorite, you have to be incentivized because you bought it to give it that much spin. So he's operating in a instant gratification attention economy where people already have preconceived notions. Not like this guy needs any defense from me, but I'm saying I think I'm with you, man. I think the writing is really good. And I think the production is inventive or just like weird or perverse as it's been in a really long time.
Yeah, okay, cool. No, for sure. And, yeah, so, yeah, definitely, so that's our verdict. Yeah, I love it. Neither really likes it or borderline loves it.
And I'll take that back now. Yeah, I'm here
Yeah,
for it.
yeah, and, like, I think yeah, no, I think that pretty much sums it up. Getting to Maid of Honor, first off, I just wanna say, like, it's incredible. As I said, it was incredible that I'm gonna say I really like Maid of Honor, maybe just short of Love, but I think it's probably I like it more than Honestly Nevermind. I like it. I think, Honestly Nevermind was cool, but I think it's a little monochromatic in comparison, even though it had some great Gordo production, but a little monochromatic in comparison to Maid of Honor. And I think that Drake's somewhat, good for rapper voice, but somewhat limited vocals in a vacuum combined with sort of monochromatic production kind of made that album kind of just not great as good as it could have been. I think it's still a good album, but I think Maid of Honor has more techno sounds injected, more like juke kind of sound, Chicago juke. It has different voices filling up some of the space, so Drake doesn't have to carry the whole thing. He's maybe rapping a little bit more, so he doesn't have to sing as much. Like, I love the song with Stunna Sandy, I love the song with Central C, and I love the song with Sexy Red, the Cha Cha Slide remix. I mean, I don't have as much to say, but, I mean, it's Maid of Honor, I think it's a really good album. I think probably a top 8 Drake album, and I think, and like, I think I put it on our list. I might move it up again, like, whatever. I added all 3, but I have to maybe revisit it. But, I think it's a top 8 or top 10 Drake album, which he has 20 projects. It's a top half, and he put it out, and I think he it's just it's the sonic textures and voices make it a richer experience. I think the best singles are a little bit, even though I love Sticky, I think a little more indelible than the ones on Honestly Nevermind. The features made sense, and then on the whole, I just think it's very impressive that he's able to drop, and go in a little deeper on this when we wrap up, but I mean, able to drop an album like this that's so good in a completely different genre on after he just dropped maybe one of the best rap albums of the year, pure rapping. I think it's a testament to, you can say whatever you want. You can't do that. You can't play any majority role in any of those things. You could say songwriting factories, you could say whatever, ghostwriting, you could say et cetera, et cetera. Being a prominent part of both of these albums in the same time span is fucking astonishing, and that's not even getting to the 3rd album. But I'm very impressed with Maid of Honor and Drake's ability to thread all those kind of eclectic sounds to something cohesive, smooth, and fun, and low stakes, and inventive. I think Maid of Honor, it might have I would have maybe given it like a Pitchfork 7.5, Pitchfork 7.2 or something. They gave it an 8, but I respect it. My boy Alphonse wrote the review. But yeah, I really like Maid of Honor. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I'd say we're aligned there. I'm like it. I probably like it to not mad at it, and a lot of that's just because it's, quite frankly, the projects of the 3 I've spent the least time with. My question is this, and I think again this kinda contextualize it. You like Maid of Honor better than Don't Tap the Glass?
Wow. Wow. That's a great question. Man, that's something I didn't think about. Let me see. I reviewed it for Variety last year. Hold up. I think, man, I feel like I like them about the same.
Okay.
I don't know if more. It's man. I'm just looking at the track list again. I haven't listened to that one in a while. But I think I think I like it about the same. Feel like they're both like in like the 7.5 range for me. I think they're both really good. I feel like I like it about the same. I think, and I really like the. I really liked it. I think I'd maybe give it, I would say they're in the same range for me. That's the answer. Sorry, I was trying to really give you, what about
Yeah, no
you?
worries. I appreciate that. I mean, I know obviously that was, there was no, pre-canned, rehearsal of that question, so I appreciate the honest thought. I mean, I think for me, I like Maid of Honor better, I think just because I kinda like the bizarre house shit a little bit more than, like, and it's interesting because one of my kind of critiques of Don't Tap the Glass, and again, this is like expectation of the listener versus just like quality of music, is with the kinda like LL Cool J, like, aesthetic and, like, Stop Playing With Me, I thought it was gonna be like rapidy raps, and then some stuff was kinda like DJ Quick adjacent, which was cool to me, but some of it, like, was a little too Silk Sonic and, like, not really my bag personally. But again, just to kind of, like, layer this to set it up, so Maid of Honor, we have on par, maybe a little better than Don't Tap the Glass for that range, okay. Looking back at Iceman, do we have that above Don't Be Dumb?
Oh, hell yeah, easily. And
Do we
I
have
like,
that do we have that
and I like Don't Be Dumb. I liked it. I was very
Same, yeah.
happy being good, but ultimately I think even if there is, I like the second half of Iceman a little less than than I do the first the first like 12 songs of Iceman to me are unimpeachably great. I think like 3 of the songs are sort of like variations of each other maybe, but
Yeah, it got a little
slow,
dragged out.
slow meditative beat, but at the same time, like Little Birdie and Don't Worry kind of grew on me a little bit, so I can't even
Yeah,
really
I
say the
like Lil
back
Birdie
half
a
is
lot,
bad.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't really even say that the back half. I just think Don't Be Dumb is very strong first like 6 or 7 strong songs, but I think that actually began to drag a little bit in the back half to the
Yeah,
point like I think it's beautiful aesthetically. I think Rocky does some cool stuff, but ultimately he's just not a he's actually at least 2 tiers below Drake as a writer, as a
yeah,
lyricist. I think, even though I think, he's a good rapper, but I just think Drake's just snippier and a little more clever. And I think Rocky had a few kind of very formulaic, fake deep things at the end that I was like, all right, it was a little bit look at me, and I was all right, bro. Like, what is this, 2015? Like, get that shit out of here. I forget what it was, but that's how I felt. I think it was a good album. I'm
yeah.
glad he, but Iceman is clearly on a different tier, I think. And I think Maid of Honor is better too.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a good question.
I was gonna say to be fair too, and I really enjoyed stretches of Don't Be Dumb, and Rocky's one of my favorites. I do think if Rocky still had yams in his life, the same as Drake has, you know, like 40 is like an ear for beats or curations. I think Rocky's catalog is 8 times better than it is right now. And I mean, that is like, you know, properly weighted as possible because I think he's got some really good stuff in there. I just think that Yams was a whole nother level. But okay, so we've got Iceman above, Don't Be Dumb. We have it above the fall off.
Hell yeah. And
Yeah.
I like the J. Cole.
And I like Cole too. Yeah. All right.
To be honest, huh?
Do we have it above GNX?
No.
Okay. Yeah. And I
I
kind
would
of,
say, yeah, I would say they're not far apart. I think GNX, you know, Kendrick, GNX, that was my album of the year in 2024 for my Stereo Gum list. It's GNX and Blue Lips. You know what? And I think Blue Lips and GNX are a little, or both better than, maybe a little better than Iceman, which maybe I'll revisit it. But I think GNX is funny because it was just a victory lap. I would say
for sure.
he, I think people almost are numb to kind of what GNX means because because it's Kendrick. You know, it's funny, Drake, one of the, I guess the smaller flaws about Iceman is Drake and this whole his inability to diss Kendrick. He's always like, "Oh, you don't really you make scary in the hoes music. You rap like you're trying to make slaves free." But,
Yeah.
like, Kendrick makes some fucking bops. You know what I mean? He makes some incredible songs. Like, Squabble Up? That shit was crazy. Squabble Up,
TV
TV
off
Off,
nut. Yeah.
Peekaboo, like, and then and then, like, the pure, like, performances of it, whacked his vocality, his understanding,
Yeah.
the way he's such a masterful performer. You know what, actually? GNX might be a little better. I think they're very close. I think they're close. I think because I do think the Tupac reincarnated song is a little heavy-handed and kind of corny. It works well enough. The main niggas flip. The Glorious song about like his pen, that's bullshit. That is
Yeah.
I'm not, I think it's fine because he's good enough to make it okay. But that con what a heavy-handed loser concept song in my opinion. Luther, everyone loved that song. I have to say it's a good song.
Yeah.
Give me
Kind of
Janice
more
shut
background music, good song
Yeah,
than
exactly.
like, yeah.
Yeah, give me Janice shut the fuck up more easily, honestly. Hopefully it does better. You know, but yeah, I like don't you know what, GNX, I think they're on the same tier. I don't even want to say like which is better. I've gone
Yeah.
back and forth because Iceman keeps growing on me. Honestly, and, like, I feel like it doesn't really have true like, to me, GNX is a trimmer album, but I think it also kind of has a couple misses, whereas Drake has a couple misses maybe, but it's like, he also has a
It's
bunch of
the
fucking great songs. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Drake's misses are more on the basis of redundancy. You know what I mean? Either redundant topics or, you know, like you said, there's a stretch where it's like, well, these 3 songs maybe could have just been 1. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's funny, like, very unpopular take. I was rooting for Drake in the Kendrick beef. Um
Same.
Yeah, and again, maybe like, yo, we just, you know, shat on our own, you know, thing of like, oh, all these writers already decided how they felt, you know what I mean, before. But honestly, my rationale for it was just like, yo, Drake's fun. Drake's music is fun. Kendrick's music is often sad, even if it is introspective and he's doing like the deep diving, and I really respect it. I just rather listen to happy stuff and sad stuff. The irony in it, in which I'm actually like, obviously, I have no qualms with the outcome or whatever, is I think as a listener did exactly what I wanted. I wanted Kendrick the Space to be on top, pause, I guess if you will, and like make music that's fun, which he did with GNX. And I wanted Drake to grow up. And he did with Iceman. You know what I mean? Even if there still is a like you said, like a petty or vindictive nature, which like, yo, still, I mean, if some shit like that happened to me, it'd probably take me a few years to get over it. You know what I mean? I don't think
To
that
be
I would
honest.
you know, but I say that all to get and kind of set the stakes to get into the third album. So we have Iceman above his contemporaries in terms of Flacco and Cole. And in the same tier is GNX. And we have Maid of Honor, you know, at or around, you know, or above Don't Tap the Glass with Tyler. Where do you I don't want to mispronounce it. I don't know if it's Habibi or Habibti, so forgive me for my my time with that, but where'd you rate that?
Like it the least of the 3, but I think there's some cool stuff. I think he does some cool vocal and sonic experimentation with low shimmy. Again, I fucking love the Sexy Red collab. I love it. They flipped the Donnell Jones. I'm feeling you, I'm already, and then like it's
Yeah, yeah.
sexy. She can't sing at all, and she's in no way like a romantic lyricist. And I love how like Drake does something sexy and kind of cool and flipping a classic R&B, and he's just like, you know what's sexy? Just say some blunt, kind of stupid shit, but it just works because it's like asymmetrical, but it's like had it just been another R&B singer, it would have been too predictable, maybe, or it would have been la, 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 like I kind
Right.
of like quirky weirdness of it, so I like it. And there are other what other songs I didn't like that the beginning song,
Oh, the Rusty intro?
but maybe that was that. I think that might have been a little tongue in cheek, but I didn't.
Yeah, I think that was the point. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but I think it was kind of like there it's I don't know, like, I thought that Yebba record on, like, some sexy songs was actually really good,
I
but
did too.
I think it's kinda playing with some of that reaching, but doing into a way of, like I think it's intentionally messy and, like, half troll how, like, Drake would kinda do these things on some of the albums that I maybe liked a little less, like Views or For All the Dogs, where, like, he kinda trolls, you know what I mean? Like, he opens, like, Views, like, kinda trying to, like, sing, like, a ballad, like, almost like on some, like, Phantom of the Opera, like, meets Whitney Houston shit. It's, like, kinda weird,
Mhm.
and it's like, "Okay, like, I respect your artistic risk, but, like, it didn't really
Yeah,
land with me." And then, like, even For All the Dogs, like, "Oh, yeah, it's for the dogs, he's gonna be back, and Virginia Beach, he's gonna go push." And then he's just kind of, like, weirdly singing or whatever, so, like, I kinda took this as, like, I don't know, just kind of like "Hey, I'm gonna give you a goofy I'm gonna start off by being silly, and this is gonna be a rundown of what, like, dating as Drake has been for the last 15 years."
yeah, no, yeah, and yeah, I think I guess, and I probably like me, I might have been a little hard on it in my review, but I thought, but I mean, overall, I mean, I love WNBA, although I don't love it. I really like it. Slap the City with Kendra. I really like it. High Five. Her Not There. I liked probably a good 6 to 7 songs in this album. Like I actually liked it, and I didn't like the Party Next Door one. Prioritizing, maybe I could
Yeah,
have
I'd say
done.
that's probably the most forgettable one.
Yeah, yeah, these guys are in a slump, man. I just it made me like, damn. But nah, but I think good album. I like it. I firmly like it. I don't think I like it the least of the three, but I mean, it'll probably grow on me. I'm stuck on that fucking Iceman and Maid of Honor so goddamn much. I mean, I've been stuck on Iceman so much that like now I have to like revisit Maid of Honor again. But I know that's just fire too. And Habibti, I think it's good. I mean, it's really kind of reminds me of a kind of a throwback, a little bit of a throwback vibe. It reminds me of those types of songs I liked when I was listening to Drake before, but also being a little more. I like these tapped in with a new generation. I really fuck with Low Shimmy. I think he just brings this kind of, as I've used to describe him a few times, this chill delirium to how he does music. It's just something that's like a little delirious, but not out of control, not unwieldy. It's coherent. It's something narcotic about it, almost future like, almost Don Toliver like. It's micro, not quite as good sounding Don Toliver. I think, yeah, I like a BT man. I think it's good. What's your input on it?
Yeah, I'd say I like it too. I mean, candidly, it's the one I've spent the most time with, just for, like, work purposes. That rationale being it was the shortest. So when I found out Drake was dropping 3 albums at midnight and I was tasked to write, I was like, "Yeah, let me pick the one that's half an hour long. I gotta get to bed." But yeah, I think that if I was just listening to this passively and I didn't have to write about it, like, I think that, like, even when I was talking to, like, Demas about it, like, there's an element of it that kinda slogs, but, like, since I was tasked to, like, write about it, to listening intently, I'm like, yo, he's really writing. You know what I mean? Like, it's the first Drake project, maybe since, like, if you're reading this, it's too late, where it feels like there is a narrative arc. You know what I mean? Like, it is on theme and stuff. And to me, it's like, yo, Rusty intro, like him kind of like being like the drunk, goofy guy on like a cabana bar and being like, yeah, I've made some mistakes, but hey, you did too. You know what I mean? Like, like, do I want another drink? Do I want to get into this or whatever? And then it's like slap the city. It's like, hey, we both knocked down the whole town. So what are we gonna do next? You know what I mean? And then like kind of all the strip club anthems and stuff. And then him talking about like maybe settling down and kind of like toying with like, well, maybe the mundaneness of this is even scarier than like the toxic cycle of, chasing people around, flying people out or stuff like that. And then when it kind of ends with polarizing, let me make sure that's the title of it.
Prior
Prioritizing, pardon me. Yeah, it is. I think that's a really interesting and brave record because, like, to me, like, I came up the same, like, Say What's Real is like what made me a Drake fan. You know what I mean? Like, that was like, oh, like he's got some shit. Like, he's vulnerable, but he's not a total simp. Like, he has confidence that he's trying to find and things like that. He's a really good writer and he's really good at like taking on, both popular and unpopular sounds. And this one kind of ends like You Will or like 808s and Heartbreak, like beat, like just totally deep fried. You know what I mean? Like he's talking about being afraid of AI, which is like obviously not like the most novel thing anybody's ever said. But I do think like to me, the whole kind of arc of this album is like Drake's about to turn 40. He's been, whether you want to call him the bar star avatar or like the Superman version of a fuck boy, like whatever it is, you know what I mean? I say none of this with any judgment or whatever. Like he's been that guy. Actually, so much so that in previous work, he was very judged for it, you know what I mean? For not growing up. And now he's kind of in this hazy funk after like taking a loss, getting close to 40, where it's like, yo, did I totally miss my chance to like actually be a regular guy? You know what I mean? Like, is everybody that I'm going to be going after now either on their second or third marriage and has baggage or never married or whatever and is, having trouble settling down too? Or am I going to be trying to talk to 20-year-old girls that have 150 unread Snapchat messages? Like, am I the oldest guy at the bar now, basically? You know what I mean? And like, did I stick around too long? And is this like very online world that we're living in now just going to make that like even more toxic and defeating? You know what I mean? Like, for him to end the album with the line life right now is terrifying. I just thought was like not nothing. You know what I mean? So I
that's
did think that, go ahead.
well, no, I mean, the way you've just described it, that makes me I did appreciate the writing on it, and you're right, there's something profound about that admission at the end of the album, especially for people who think Drake supposedly hasn't grown up. Or maybe this is, as you said, this is his version of grown up. Because then I did notice how he took accountability for shit on Slap the City, and I'm telling you, it's a lot of what people said Drake didn't have or what they were allegedly waiting for on
For
that
sure.
album.
Yeah.
And on all 3 albums, or 2 out of the 3.
Well, at the same time too, if he was just like, "Hey, actually, no, I'm married now, and I met a very nice, also 39-year-old, and we're moving in together. We're raising the kids, and I'm only gonna make a music that doesn't have a parental advisory label on it." Like nobody would have believed it. You know what I mean? The same people who would have been mad for him and not growing up would have called his growing up performative or a stunt or whatever else. So
Yeah.
think it's pretty fucking honest, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean, to like your Draco the Ruler point, it doesn't mean you have to like or agree with what he's saying or say, all right, hey, golf clap for, finally figuring out like, yeah, if you are running through the city like you are or whatever, it's gonna come with a tax eventually, you know what I mean? Or stuff like that. But yeah, I just thought from a writing standpoint, it was very self aware and to kind of like look back at the scorecards 3 albums one day. Iceman, we have at or right around GNX and above the other rappers of
Mhm.
this era. We have the House album at, above, or right around Don't Tap the Glass. BT, Chris Brown album, you know what I mean? I don't know if it ranks above, like, say, recent work from like The Weeknd or Bryson Tiller or Leon Thomas, but I will say, at least as a text, I'm probably more curious about Drake's dating life or musings on romance, whether they are toxic and not maturing or also maturing in real time more than those of his would-be R&B contemporaries. Just because I think I already know what's going on there, or I just care less for celebrity reasons. So
Mhm.
I think to drop 3 albums in 3 different genres that are all like rank pretty high in the given spaces, man, I think that deserves some credit.
And you know what? He's not going to get the credit to quite he deserves. You know what I think? Like I said, man, I hate to be, and, just so people don't think I'm like some raging Drake stan. I've spent the
Yes.
last years I spent the last 2 years, like, canonizing Kendrick's, like, victory over Drake. Like, I probably made thousands of dollars writing about how Kendrick Lamar beat Drake. I wrote an article called "Kendrick Lamar Beat Drake by Being Drake: Why Kendrick Was the Best Rapper of 2024. Why Kendrick Lamar won't stop pressing the red button." Shout out to Complex, shout out to Variety, shout out to everyone I wrote for, but it's the Stereo Gum, shout out to all of it. But I literally wrote a small, what must be at least like a 12-page chapter, 12, 15 page, maybe 20-page chapter on Drake's demise in this situation. I am a Drake fan, but he disappointed me. And I took it personally because of my parasocial relationship when he lost. That's why I wanted him to win. I wanted him to win so I didn't have to endure all these like faux sociological analyses and bad faith arguments. That's why I thought if Kendrick won, at least everyone knows Kendrick's great no matter what. Drake's greatness is always up for debate. But I'm gonna say this, I think because of what you have people trying to say Drake is MAGA, even though he's clearly spoken out against ICE even on this album and against Trump, implicitly, explicitly. People are gonna say he's not mature, people are gonna say he's being vindictive, blah, blah, blah. They're gonna figure out ways to say that to not give him his credit, but I think that Drake it's hard enough to drop 1 great album. It's very difficult to drop 2 great albums, like, even in 2 years. To drop 3 really good or above albums in 1 day in completely different genres is honestly astonishing. And not only do I think that no one else in rap history is capable of that, maybe Andre 3000,
Yeah, I
maybe,
was thinking that came
you
to
know,
me, yeah.
but, not only that, maybe Andre 3000. Not only do I not think anyone else in rap history is capable of that, I don't think anyone else even has the audacity or imagination to do this. Like, people are going to say that this is a matter of like, there are people I saw one of my colleagues say that it was just, a few of them say this was just like, "Drake's not a real artist," and "Drake, this is just clickbait data dump. This is just him chasing streams." But listen, Drake has a lot of money. I'm sure he wants streams. I'm sure he wants all the money he can get. But listen, you don't do this. You don't drop 3 different albums in 3 different genres unless you really like music, unless you really
Yeah.
like it. And you don't make all of them more than competent, very good, essentially, all of them, without being an exceptional talent. The ability and the ability to conceive and execute these albums on any given year is pretty impressive. I think this is something I don't think that we'll see something like this again for a while. And if we do, it's because Drake started it. He came out with the Choose Your Adventure album. You know what I mean? If you like Drake when he tough, Iceman. If you like Drake with the melody to BT. If you like Shake Your Ass Drake, Maid of Honor. The ability to do all of those things is astonishing to me. The audacity to drop them all at once is crazy. The ability to execute them and the idea to even do it. I think it's just a microcosm of how he's sort of reimagined the music industry in his own image. And I have an article coming out about that. But he's I think this is just philosophically and strategically a brilliant idea of all the baggage I guess he has, but I think that's preventing them from seeing something that is very obviously impressive and very obviously somewhat singular. This is the maximalist version of the potential Drake showed the degree of his career. I gave these niggas the look, the verse, and even the hook. That's why every song sound like Drake featuring Drake.
Yeah.
This is it. This the crystallized maximalist version. He's the only person that is truly a viable R&B and I guess dance superstar and an elite rapper that can trade bars with the best rapper and other top 5 rappers ever. I think this is just a Herculean accomplishment. And if people weren't so invested in despising everything they think Drake stood for and stands for, they would give it the credit it deserves. So as an accomplishment, as a moment, I love it.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, as far as, being a heavyweight in, rap, R&B, and dancehall, he only has one contemporary, and that's Shaggy. But, the output is not quite the same. But
Yeah.
no, all jokes Yeah, although shout out Shaggy, Shaggy's great.
Exactly.
But, yeah, I think that even though there's an element of I don't think it was a total charitable act, if you will, to drop 3 albums on one day. I do think that there is streaming numbers at play, there's Billboard
Yeah.
records, and I think that I mean, even as, like I said, as a Drake fan who doesn't like all of his work, but likes a lot of it, part of I think one of the things that made the tide go against him and, I don't know if this falls on, you know, him or his camp or the media or whatever is like he kind of felt like the poster boy for like, oh yeah, like Billboard number ones. Like once you started seeing headlines, granted, this is more like stuff that would be on like Hype Beast, you know what I mean? Or, like kind of like, music adjacent stuff, you know what I mean, respectfully or whatever. And Complex 2 and Boardroom, Billboard, whoever, is that it started to feel like maybe we were judging music a little bit too much by commercial success to charts or
Mhm.
like playing the analytics game, like same reason people don't fuck with the Thunder right now. You know what I mean? So like I get that, but to your point, it's like, yo, to make 3 albums of 3 different genres, you still have to make 3 albums of different genres, you know what I mean? Like, and we can kinda on one hand, how many people that would have the talent, you know what I mean, to even attempt that, you know what I mean? Those that would not would either be I mean, shoot, you could say either because 'cause they're too lazy or too scared, which and I'm not even saying that as judgment. That's viable reasons to not do something like that grandeur, but, like, the fact that he did it, I mean, it's easy to hate, but again, it's just like, I really wish just as, like, a general public, like, yo, people you don't like do good things, people you like do bad things. Things are still good things and bad things, you know what I mean? Like, I think that he kind of just as we were talking a couple weeks ago, is like Chris Brown kind of gets shat on because it's like, oh, well, we don't want you to ever be able to come back because you did something bad or whatever. We don't like you. And in the past, people could just make a good song and bad deeds were undone. I think that, I don't know, people are a little too much camp or hive mind now, in my opinion. I'm glad he's back. I'm glad he gave it a swing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think yeah, man, there's so many layers. I wanted to yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, I think people one more thing. I think people being very disingenuous about what he had to people were definitely made his race and ethnicity a focal point. They're definitely questioning his whole identity. So for people to get angry when he brings up his fair skin and Jewish background, I think it's just totally like absurd. I felt like that was like some sort of weird like I don't know what not it's not Mandela effect, but it's some sort of thing. There's some sort of psychological gymnastics people are doing to act offended by that. I don't know, but that was one aside. But it's my
Yeah.
bad.
No, I think 1, I was gonna say 1, I think that's a fair point, and I can also say 2, I think that was a fair point for Kendrick to attacking the beef just based on
Yeah,
the beef, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna," like, no pun intended, "get under his skin," psychologically and identity because that's how Kendrick felt he could shake him or mobilize a base around him, and like, yo, he did, you know what I mean? But at the same point too, it's like, what, you're gonna bring it up and now I can't talk about it? Like,
yeah, it's
that's,
very yeah, it's very and it's just like I said, man, the prism through which people look at Drake, it's so like I just wish they could be honest about it. I guess that's my only thing. I wish, but that's the thing about it, which makes it more annoying to me. It's an unconscious, like a heavy on unconscious anti-Drake bias. I think at play. I think it's totally fair for Kendrick to rap about it. I don't care. The beef, say whatever you want. Like people were saying, 50 Cent very obviously a gangster, was a bitch during the beef. You know, Beanie Siegel was calling D Block like bitch ass niggas and shit. You know what I mean? It's not like people that's obviously not true, but still a seventh grade kid in Iowa would be like, yeah, 50, I heard 50 Cent's a snitch. That doesn't make it valid. But yeah, that's one more thing I wanted to say. But yeah, I love I like all the albums, at least I like them. But I love Iceman, really like Maid of Honor. BT is good too. So.
yeah, 1, I do think that we live in a time where discussing or criticizing or just even being honest about culture or art, like it's tough to say a real feeling without fear of it's going to be pulled to some side of polarity. You know what I mean? Or that you're going to be interpreted away. Like, I mean, like I'm sure that's how a lot of people felt about like the Bad Bunny Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like I was good, you know what I mean? Like, but people would think, oh well, if you said you didn't like it, it means you're MAGA and you watch Kid Rock on True Social. Like, if you said you liked it, like, okay, well, what was your favorite song you performed? You know what I mean? Or like, why? You know, there's so many things that are honestly just like a lot more fucking loaded than they should be. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That like, no, like even if art represents culture or subculture or struggle or some of these old worldviews or lens, like that's the beautiful thing about art. You could like some of these art that you completely disagree with. You know what I mean? Like I can't tell you how many people that are canceled or vote differently than me or have done things good, bad, or indifferent that I think their music's great or I think they suck. You know what I mean? Or both. And I think that Drake just kind of being like one of those last like monoculture figures is kind of become a bit of a pinata, if you will. Which I mean, shoot, it wasn't like that shit didn't happen to Elvis. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like that didn't happen to Eminem. And it's not like also if we look back on Elvis or Eminem, you know, we judge them differently as society has evolved past them. You know what I mean? Um,
No, fuck no.
yeah, people are cool to like whoever they like with me, man. It's music, it's fun.
Agreed. Anyways, guys, that about wraps up the latest level of the latest episode of Rated or Love It. Let us know what you think in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the Rated or Love It newsletter, which I've been overwhelmingly busy, but I'm gonna get back to it. It's basically a book I'm writing in real time. You can subscribe at ratedorloveit.substack.com/subscribe. Ian, you have any plugs?
Uh, Actually, man, I got one plug. One, I think you should do a Drake Kendrick book because I think you would do a job of that, and you're probably the only person that could, you know, not take like a total Skip Bayless approach, you know what I mean, and go like one side or whatever. Second, yeah, I got some stuff coming up. Shoot, I think and Skip and Complex. Hopefully, that'll be pretty good. But one thing I did want to ask you is kind of like a final thought. Do you think you'll still be listening to Iceman in July?
This rate, man, I think so, man. It's hard. I haven't been able to shake it so far. I haven't like usually after like I microdose an album, I had to listen to it like 15 times last week because I had to review it the same day it came out. So usually I wouldn't want to listen to it again, but I keep finding new layers, like new favorite songs, new. I'm really fucking with this Iceman album. What about you?
Yeah, I think so. And I think too, just because I think in this season of life, it's so much of like it actually has function. You know what I mean? Like it can honestly give me energy. I mean, like that's the thing. I feel like a dork. Like I'm either, you know, consuming music to be on top of it and write about it, or I'm listening to podcasts to, you know, try to sharpen my thinking skills, if you will. But yeah, I'm not sure there's been a rap album that's like really lived beyond a year with me since the pandemic, other than probably a whole lot of red.
Oh, right, good.
And again, a lot of that was just because, like, well, if I gotta work out or play some basketball, Imma get up, you know what I mean? Like, thankfully, it's been a pretty good 6 years since the pandemic, so, you know, haven't had to go too much into the deeper, darker bag of stuff, even though, you know, that is what it is, but to that point, whether it's, say, like GNX, which obviously is a bar, or even some of the, rappers that we mentioned that dropped earlier this year, is there any stuff from, like, say, the last 12 24 months rap wise that remains in constant rotation for you, or at least like, you know, in the proverbial 6 CD changer?
Uh, I like Earl Sweatshirt's album from last
Mhm.
year.
That was really good.
Yeah, Live, Laugh, Love. I love that album. I think Earl Sweatshirt might be the best rapper alive. But I mean, because I literally focus on music so much. It's like I'm always writing about it for one reason or another. My brain is almost fuzzy on like what I'm trying to think. I really liked. I don't know. Earl's really the one that sticks out to me. I think that was probably my I really loved Blue Lips, but I also, like, listened to that too much for a while. I think, yeah, I like the Earl album, I like the Tyler album, but I sort of those had their season. I like the G Herbo album. I really like the music, Playboi Carti's last album. Right, Earl,
Mhm.
Playboi Carti's last album, and then Iceman and these albums. And then
Yeah, and you
obviously
know, I go ahead.
what? No, and then
Oh,
obviously
no.
GNX a couple years ago. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think for me, like music just in this age has been a little bit more of almost like utility for like exercise or like staying young and on top of things other than like introspection. Like I do credit like Cole for like actually being a rapper who's still like not just looking to like go inside himself, but actually give wisdom to others. You know what I mean? And maybe the, imaginary, not imaginary Jay-Z album, will, be the next kind of like one in that. But I do think it's funny that because we don't literally invest in music, like, spending 15 bucks on an album, and it's like, shoot, I thought Gone sucked. It's actually my favorite song on Late Registration because, like, I've listened to it 100 times. You know what I mean? It's the best. Like we almost consume albums as though they're movies or TV shows, which I did think it made it kind of novel that Iceman basically released as a like movie or TV show. Even if, Beyonce or other folks had done it, like it felt like an event in that sense.
No, for
But yeah,
sure.
I'm curious to see how it sticks. And also too, if he's gonna take it on the road in the US to tour and what
I'm gonna go see
songs.
it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go
And I
see
would
it.
say, yeah, I would rather credit to his contemporaries, but I think Drake still just has the records that can fill an arena more so than the others. Although I think Kendrick is probably a better performer or like high level art performer at this juncture. But we'll see.
We'll see, man. Hopefully, I think I said that, my variety review. I said the Kendrick thing was supposed to be a kill shot, but I think it ended up being a defibrillator for Drake. I think it brought him back. I think it brought him out of a stasis. I think it thought it brought him out of a complacency. So I think
Lit a fire
that's
under his ass. I appreciate it. And I'm glad that, Kendrick got his just due because he's been the fucking guy. You know what I mean? Like for since
yeah.
Section 80. So
I mean, Kendrick's still like the best rapper alive, but I mean, I think him and Drake. I think this whole thing reaffirmed that for me, though. They're just on a different level. They're the only people that people get this excited about and that are capable of all this stuff. So shout out to them. But yeah,
and there I was gonna say, and there are still technicians and also bring back in earlier, like you referencing the old Drake lines. There's the like, shout out Lil Bro, shout out Slumville. I hope you're the reason I'm having fun still. Like, as much as it is a choice for Drake to still be a rapper at 39, when like based on his charisma, talent, chart success, he could be doing a lot of other things, like making like basically like Pitbull records respectfully, or like going like Ludacris or Jamie Foxx. This
yeah.
dude's rapping out Conductor Williams beats. You know what I mean? Like he is still a rapper's rapper, even if he does not have the census report resume of what we usually think of as a rapper's rap. You know what I mean? Like kind of back to his origin.
No, and that's another point. That's an underrated thing. That's another underrated thing about Drake, as you said. And that's exactly it. People talk about Drake. That's why, like, people talk about Drake and like, oh, he's doing this to stay relevant, or man, he did 680,000 album sale first week sales his first album. Drake has long since he is like Amazon. You know what I mean? He is
Yeah.
Netflix. I have an article coming out kind of about that, but he is the institution, man. He could be even bigger because I think he's a better actor than Will Smith was when Will Smith started because he was actually a child actor. I don't know if he could reach Will Smith heights, but I mean, Drake could absolutely be a movie star. I'd go see him. I remember when he hosted the ESPYS. Hilarious. One of the
Yeah.
best.
SNL was really good too.
Yeah, like this guy, he's doing this because he likes rapping, which I think is definitely underappreciated, and the people he chooses to collaborate with. He's. I think I saw the New York Times podcast. Shout out to Joe Coscarelli and John Caramonica.
Yeah.
But they said that he might be like the best A&R in America, and like maybe in North America, including Canada. But his ear for talent and sounds, his ability to replicate or reimagine all this stuff, man. I mean, yeah, he clearly he rapping on Conductor Williams beats, and this goes back. I know there's streams and things like that at play, but I was at the J. Cole Dreamville Fest in 2023, and this was the one where Drake was going to be there, and Drake is there. This is a year before all things went to shit. But I remember Drake, it was enough. He'd already performed his songs, right? Which already a huge deal, even probably for a J. Cole audience to a degree. But all of a sudden he was like, no, no, I have more for you. I saw it. All of a sudden he brings out 21 Savage. All of a sudden no, I have more for you. All of a sudden he brings out Lil Uzi Vert. I'm like, oh my God. He's like, I have more for you. Then all of a sudden he brings out Glorilla. Then all of a sudden he brings out Lil Wayne. And it was like, yo, he really came through for us. Like, Drake just gave us, like, exactly it was already enough that Drake is at a J. Cole festival on the same
Right.
stage as J. Cole, which is a regardless, it's some sort of, like, late blog era fever dream kind of, right? L he brought out the other the other GOAT, Lil Wayne, Glorilla, 21 Savage, and Lil Uzi Vert all over the course of, like, 20 minutes. Like, talk about I mean, I feel like there's not enough Drake positivity in some ways. He really will just give you what you want. He gives the fans what they want a lot of time, and I feel like this 3 album structure is just another example for that. Like, you can we can look at it in a cynical way. I mean, I'm sure money and streams plays into it. I'm sure. That might even be most of it. But I mean, he gave us basically, he gave us a pure rap album, basically, a dance album and a singing album. He touched all of his demographics. He created the dance demographic like a few years ago. I think that Dreamville Festival, all the cameos he brought and his presence there in general is sort of a microcosm of like just how in a way generous. I think he is pretty generous to his fans, man. And every time I go see him, I always get every time I see a Drake show, man, I don't pay for concert tickets mostly that much anymore. But back when I did, I was happy to pay because he gave a show, performed all the right songs, saw the crowd, brought the right guests, gave the best theatrical speeches. And that Dreamville performance really kind of embodied that fan generosity, and he's always giving his fans music year round. I just feel like once Drake is done, man, I think people are gonna look more favorably when we and I think they're gonna see the scale of talent, and they're gonna appreciate how much he gave to us. Even just rapping, even just any category, and they'll know that he could have branched out and done things besides music, but he really kept it music, and he kept it a shit ton of music and he put on a lot of people. I don't know. I'm in peak Drake appreciation hours right now. I'll get back to when he does some whack shit. I'm gonna flame him. But for now, I'm happy about Drake and what he's done.
One, I think that's kind of the whole point is Drake is a showman, Drake is a technician, and many people also think he's a sucker, which I can't really speak to 'cause I never met the guy. You know what I mean? And I understand if you think somebody's character is flawed or whatever, that overriding talent or performance or output or whatever. But I think even that withstanding, even if that is like the critic's standpoint, there's still props to be given for the showmanship and the technical ability. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that that has kind of been lost in some of this just because, I mean, shoot, the same for you and me. People with big opinions on somebody they ain't never met in real life. You know what I mean? Like online that have parasocial relationships with this person who's either an avatar for a guy they think is awesome or a guy they think sucks. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, I don't know. I guess it's part of being that guy.
Yep, this happens. All right, well, that pretty much wraps it up. Me and Ian were some chatty patties today. We're some yappers, but I love it. Love talking to Ian. This pretty much
Right.
wraps up the latest episode of Rated or Love It, the podcast. Subscribe to my newsletter, ratedorloveit.substack.com/subscribe. Be sure to tap in with my boy Ian Stonebrook. And yeah,
Looking forward to it, man. Hopefully talk some V's or something next week.
cool. All V's, absolutely, for
Yeah,
sure.
V's and playoffs.
All right, cool. Fine. Peace, everyone.